Hello guys and welcome to the channel. This is WvW. In today's video I want to talk about the update to my roaming druid build. I have tested many runes and relics to find my footing into this new era of relics, I guess. So let me tell you first what changed and what's the problem in order that I needed to change some stuff. So I used to use Rune of Antitoxin, and Rune of Antitoxin will give you lower condition duration applied to you and give you condition damage, and the special effect was if you cleanse a condition it will cleanse another condition. So if you use a skill that will cleanse 13, it's now 14. If you use a skill that cleanse 1, that's now it's 2, which allowed a lot of good tricks that we can pull. For example, Lightning Reflex was becoming very reliable as a way to save me button, because it will remove immobilize first if you had it, and then remove 2 conditions from the trait wellness knowledge, which means this first one will trigger antitoxin and the second one will trigger antitoxin because there was no internal cooldown, which means this skill alone was able to cleanse 5 conditions including the immobilize. So it will stun break, it will dodge, and it will always remove the immobilization, gaining distance, and you can leave. You can measure on that every other thing. The trap, every balls will cleanse 3, not 2. Every other skill works the same. Even the other trick of Cesty Avatar of blasting inside skill 2, it will cleanse 2, but the blast will cleanse 1, so now it's 3 plus 2, that means it's 5, like that basically. Now it's not possible. Why? Because the Relic of Antitoxin actually have an internal cooldown of 5 seconds. And even so it says this can only affect an ally once every 5 seconds, it's actually affect you too once every 5 seconds. So it's always once every 5 seconds, which made it unreliable. It happened almost at random. Even if you're trying to track the cooldown, that means it doesn't affect you this much. It's not that much cleanse. Even if it looks strong on paper, still that means one time condition cleanse every 5 seconds if you use another one. However, like I said, it ruins the tricks of lightning reflexes, also of the Celestia Avatar, so it is really unreliable. And also, the rune of Antitoxin itself became not only bad, it's probably one of the worst runes in the game, because it give you the same, give you condition damage with lower numbers, 175, it lowers the condition duration by 15%, and last tier it give you vitality. So if you want to mimic this tanking stuff, if you want to keep it and use antitoxin or something, this is a bad choice. There is no condition build will waste condition damage and take stability instead, and take vitality instead. Why not run Sunless? It will give you the same exact condition duration reduction, but instead of vitality it will give you condition damage, which was one of the runes I used. Actually I used it with Antitoxin Relic in order to mimic the old playstyle, but like I said, the cooldown made it not really function. So there is other ideas like Krait rune for increasing bleed duration and the Afflicted. Those were the most successful one, but they both fall short against Trapper rune. This is the most powerful rune for condition builds right now if you're using multiple condition sources at least, and I will explain why. So Krait rune, let's talk about the problem with Krait rune first. It will give you 50% bleed duration, which is very high. That means it is the highest damage for bleeding. However, that means you neglect other condition sources, you sacrifice the extra condition damage that the Trapper rune could give you, and you only focus on bleed. However, 14%, 14 second bleed here, 14 second bleed here. No one will let themselves bleed for 14 seconds. And even if they did, you would be killing them faster because you're still applying different hits from your weapons or Celestia Avatar or whatever. So people will always cleanse. Besides, there's a very reliable cleanse in the game, or the most reliable cleanse, actually have a cooldown of 10 seconds, which is anyone can use. It is a sigil of cleansing on your weapon. You cannot interrupt or stop a weapon swipe, so people even under control can always switch weapon to trigger the sigil. Put that with this basing down their other condition cleanses, Spectral Walk on Necromancer, Bear Stance on Assault Beast, will keep balls in condition cleanses and then use another and then use another. So even if they screwed up, you interrupted them, they couldn't do anything from whatever skills you use. They simply will eventually swipe their weapon and cleanse what you do. So condition duration is very viable. It's very strong, obviously. However, to really build into it this much is not as good as building into condition damage or in multiple sources in order to be more efficient. The only value you will get from very high bleed duration is fighting among guards because you will kill them if no one really cleanses them. The condition will be very sticky. Trying to destroy siege, you can build too much into a single condition type, or in short duration skills like the auto attack. That means the higher the duration, the more effective it will be, and everyone will let 4-second pass, obviously. So like I said, Kite might be good, but it's not the best. That rune that I found quite to be a trap because it is really good, but also fall against the trapper is the afflicted. So the afflicted give you 15% condition duration, 10 poison, so the afflicted give you 10% condition duration, 10 poison, and 20 bleed, and 175 condition damage, standard. However, the trapper give you an extra 125, which means it is 300 condition damage, and also give you 5% extra condition duration comparing to only 10 here. To the point, you will find that the poison damage from trapper is actually higher than the afflicted. Only the bleed will be higher here. So if you use multiple sources of condition damage, like us, we have poison, bleed, and burning from Celestial Avatar Natural Conversion, skill 5. So the afflicted in the end is less damage. Let's check the damage with the afflicted first. As you can see, the poison here. I will even use food so you can see the whole thing. My food is still the same, mango pie and the crystal tune crystal. I will put the up-to-date guide for my food uses in all my ranger build video to explain it in case you are interested in watching that. Now, with the afflicted, as you can see, poison here is 4k 100. It actually will be higher in trapper. Only the bleed will be a tiny bit higher actually with the afflicted. But even the burning, you have 458 here, while you will be more than 500 with the trapper. And not only that, will give you higher condition duration in general, but also more condition damage to affect this damage. Like for poison, the poison higher damage come from the condition damage, even so the duration is less, which means it happen even faster, which more reliable, more harder to cleanse because people can take their time to cleanse. And that's why, in my opinion, trapper is the most powerful one to choose 300 condition damage while still having the high condition duration of 15%. So like I said, it is stronger than even the afflicted, and as you can see, instead of 4100 plus, it's 4200 here. Only the bleed will fall by a tiny margin, but even the burning, like we said, more than 500, it is just way more effective. That's a direct buff to our damage, and like we already explained in the room, most people will choose higher damage to begin with. And that's another problem appeared with the Relic system. Everyone will not now choose the effect, they will choose the stats. And the stats themselves got increased in many runes, which mean people have higher stats now, making the game a little bit more power creeped and making people able to apply more damage to you through condition or power. Not only that, for example, the Relic of Fractal for ranger players to use it on bleed, for Relic of Akim to use it with most mesmers. I mean, Relic of Akim can even be used with a ranger, mixing it with damage coming from Iboga. However, that means more condition types, not only more damage. So basically the game have more damage now. And with the removal of the anti-toxin playstyle from us, we can't tank condition as we used to. Ranger waste a lot of their skills for other reasons, for stun break, for applying damage to others, for trying to catch them. And when you need condition cleanse, you never have all your resources, you have part of it. What you saved for survivability. So you're now in an outnumber situation, for example, against 3 players, some of them condition, some power, they all hitting you. You tanking power damage, you tanking condition damage. And you need to heal and cleanse. We used to have 2 separate defenses for this. Too much cleansing against condition damage and a lot of toughness, protection from turtle, even defenses against projectile and stuff, and then healing, especially against power damage. And with this being lowered and with player having higher damage and higher potency to it, it became difficult to survive. So how do we handle this? I have tested many relics, for example the relic of the Zephyrite to give myself protection and resolution, lowering the power and condition damage, and also healing myself with the protection through rugged growth trait in survival ranger. However, it's come from the elite, give you a crystal, it does not count for your bit for some reason, only normal allies, and it's only about 6 seconds, So even if it works while trying to run from people, apply entangle to catch them behind you, so it's survival. Even if it works for tanking right to the face of your enemy, by catching them and going with multiple other hits, it felt very underwhelming. Like, it doesn't really, a single boon for a short time doesn't really fulfill the survivability that you lost and the increased in other players' power. I even tested the centaur for stability. We all know how much useful was shared anguish in mitigating a ball from Dragon Hunter or Spellbreaker and avoiding CC before it even comes, stuff like that. So adding an extra stability stack would be fine. I also tried the adventurer to mimic, to have a dodge on healing to mimic the same way I use staff. So let's say I'm immobilized, have condition and stuff, and someone trying to CC me, lock me here. I can move to staff, immediately gaining a dodge from energy sigil, immediately cleansing from cleansing sigil. I can dodge the next CC that trying to lock me and immediately go into skill 3 to run away. So you would use the same way actually with the healing. So let's say you're also being like in half health, you're immobilized and people trying to catch you. So you heal, you immediately will cleanse from Child of Earth. It is a survival skill after all because of wellness knowledge. Hopefully you cleanse the immobilized, you're even healed, and if you trigger the trap, it will trigger another cleanse. And since you got an endurance bar full because of the relic you're using, you immediately dodge and trying to avoid your enemy. Maybe even use short bow 3 to even create more distance and stuff. However, also it didn't feel this much rewarding. A single dodge, even so it will even trigger protection, it will heal you through it. It just didn't feel enough. Druid is in a good place, and if you have enough skill, you can play it probably without even any relic. However, you want to find the best to make yourself more powerful. So the most rewarding one, I would say, before I found the one I really wanted, was the tower, the wizard tower. So the wizard tower will give you a bubble that will reflect projectiles that work a bit flimsy. You don't see if it's gonna reflect or if the animation ended. You don't know the exact duration when it ends. However, it starts after you finish the cast of the elite completely, and then after it ends, the bubble itself ends, it will summon then the waves that ball enemies toward you, unlike it writing here that while summoning a wave. So that means even if you immobilized someone from stealth or far from you, you can simply walk to them and eventually you will ball them. This ball is a CC, which means instead of them using a cleanse skill, it will interrupt them and they will not break out of the entangle. So it falls as a part of what I call a CC combo. I explained everything in detail in my build, how to survive, how to use a CC combo, how to use CC avatar stuff. You can check this video separately. I have a playlist dedicated for Druid. So it put more into this as an extra CC, an extra projectile reflect would make it even harder for people to simply try to avoid your damage, and it is a group CC, which is very good. And also, since it is a CC or a disable skill, it will trigger an extra stack of Blood Moon. So that felt rewarding. You have a projectile reflect if you're trying to run away even for 1 second. You have this ball, so if someone sticking to your back like a thief trying to backstab you while you're trying to run away, they will be balled eventually. So you can use it for survival, you can use it as aggressive if you want, it can even put some damage. This one felt a bit rewarding. And like I said, you can even walk to people and time the CC controllably. You can use this to your advantage. So let's, for example, give an example to the CC combo here. So let's say I catch the enemy like this. I go with Iboga's ball, and again I gather ball, and then leave, and then I can go with Glyph Equality, and then I can CC again. I will never let the enemy break free. So this was very nice to use. However, I think I quite found something even better. You can use any of them. Tower is probably my favorite. You can do with the adventurer. I advise against the antitoxin because of the cooldown, obviously. However, the one I really settled on was speed. Now let's talk about the advantage and disadvantage of it. So the Relic of Speed will give you 66% movement speed under the effect of swiftness, making swiftness technically a super speed, which means you can run away faster. I explained in the build video that a huge part of survivability for Druid now, after we lost Ancient Seed and we can't control enemies' position, is to actually reposition yourself in a way when enemy can't catch you. So create bigger distances than you used to. You can't simply be in the face of the enemy and simply break away because the enemy is immobilized. No, the enemy is not immobilized, most of the time at least. And Relic with Speed play into this very well to increase our survivability when it comes to that. The downside of it is you can be completely matched on paper. What do I mean? Other people using Relic with Speed end up like both of you have swiftness, so like none of you have Relic with Speed, like it doesn't even function. As a druid, you can stealth and change direction. You can catch people who's immobilized behind you like that. You can even entangle them. You can heal so they stuck and immobilize and cripple. You can go to the avatar to daze them. You can immobilize them with lunar impact and change direction. So you can prevent the idea of being matched, and you will never really fight many people with Speed Rune or Speed Relic. And even if they are, that means they sacrifice the higher damage ones, like for example the Eye of Isgaran that can give them 10% to damage increase, the Relic of Firework, stuff like that. So most people will choose the damaging one, not the speed one, and honestly they should, to increase on how to kill people faster. Speed is more about survivability than actually catching to people. If you're trying to chase people, you don't count on your speed, you count on your movement skill, your teleportation, while counting on speed is a way of kiting more than that. So you can use speed whether you're being matched or not being matched to your maximum advantages of survivability. So it creates this play style or new style when you really focus on getting in, burst and then get out. You can be risky even more than you used to, which is quite nice with Ranger. However, that's not all. You can use also this to your advantage for a few tricks. For example, skill 3 on short bow affect by the speed you have in order to cast you to a longer distance. So if you don't have any swiftness like I am right now and you use it, look where I ended. However, if you have swiftness, I will stand again at the red edge and let's make sure I have swiftness before I use it. Look how much time I cut it. I ended up here less time. So that can give you even the ability to create more distances and then kite very fast and create huge distance that people can't follow while you're running at maximum speed of the Speed Relic. So with the tricks you can do, kiting, stealthing, immobilizing enemy, I found Speed Relic to be the best to do that, because now you will avoid too many of the conditions that you used to take and have to cleanse those antitoxin, and you would avoid a lot of the power damage that people can apply even higher of form and getting power crept with it, and also you had to tank while standing inside your healing spring and stuff like that. So this was probably my best successful choice and I would be running with it. So the build update is I use Trapper Rune now, I use Relic of Speed. I try to get in and out of fights as fast as possible to move like a bee around the enemy. So that's it for the video. You will find the links and the entire playlist for explaining the build and a full guide on how to use it, how to roam with it. Tell me what you think. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask them in the comments. Like, subscribe and share, do all the good stuff, and I'll be seeing you next time. Peace.